Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridvaradhari Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridvaradhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridvaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Svam Sabhadarajikacharya. Astatara Sata Sisi Madhesi Bhakti Vedanta. Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Vishnabham Sabhadarajikacharya. Sto there Sata Sisi Mad Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasita Thakur Prabhupada Ki. Go Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 5, Text 12. Muni Vivakshu Bhagavad Gunanam Sakapite Bharatam Aha Krishna Sminninam Gramya Sukhanuvadar Matir Grihitanu Hare Kataya. Muni, the sage. Vivakshu, described. Bhagavat, of the personality of Godhead. Gunanam, transcendental qualities. Sakha, friend. Api, also. Te, your. Bharatam, the Mahabharata. Aha, has described. Krishna, Dvaipayana Vyasa. Yasmin, in which. Nrinam, of the people. Gramya, worldly. Sukha Anuvadai, pleasure derived from mundane topics. Mati, attention. Grihitanu, just to draw towards. Hare, of the Lord. Katayam, speeches of Bhagavad Gita. Translation. Your friend, the great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, has already described the transcendental qualities of the Lord in his great work, the Mahabharata. But the whole idea is to draw the attention of the mass of people to Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, through their strong affinity for hearing mundane topics. Purport. The great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa is the author of all Vedic literature, of which his works, Vedanta Sutra, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Mahabharata, are very popular readings. As stated in Bhagavatam 1.4.25, Srila Vyasadeva compiled the Mahabharata for the less intelligent class of men who take more interest in mundane topics than in the philosophy of life. The Vedanta Sutra was compiled for persons already above the mundane topics, who might already have tasted the bitterness of the so-called happiness of mundane affairs. The first aphorism of Vedanta Sutra is Atato Brahma Jigyasa. In other words, only when one has finished the business of mundane inquiries in the marketplace of sense gratification can one make relevant inquiries regarding Brahman, the transcendence. Those persons who are busy with the mundane inquiries which fill the newspapers and other such literatures are classified as Stri Sudra Drija Bandhus, or women, the laborer class, and the unworthy sons of the higher classes, Brahmana, Kshatriya, and Vaishya. Such less intelligent men cannot understand the purpose of Vedanta Sutra, although they may make a show of studying the sutras in a perverted way. The real purpose of Vedanta Sutra is explained by the author himself in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And anyone trying to understand Vedanta Sutra without reference to Srimad Bhagavatam is certainly misguided. Such misguided persons who are interested in the mundane affairs of philanthropic and altruistic work under the misconception of the body as the self could better take advantage of the Mahabharata, which was specifically compiled by Srila Vyasadeva for their benefit. The great author has compiled the Mahabharata in such a way that the less intelligent class of men who are more interested in mundane topics may read the Mahabharata with great relish, and in the course of such mundane happiness can also take advantage of Bhagavad Gita, the preliminary study of Srimad Bhagavatam, or the Vedanta Sutra. Srila Vyasadeva had no interest in writing a history of mundane activities other than to give less intelligent persons a chance for transcendental realization through Bhagavad Gita. Vidura's reference to the Mahabharata indicates that he had heard of the Mahabharata from Vyasadeva, his real father, while he was away from home and was touring the places of pilgrimage. Translation again. Your friend, the great sage Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, has already described the transcendental qualities of the Lord in his great work, the Mahabharata. But the whole idea is to draw the attention of the mass of people to Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, through their strong affinity for hearing mundane topics. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitang Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. You may recall that this chapter, 5th chapter of the 3rd canto, begins with a query by Vidura to Maitreya, which may seem quite ordinary. Now remember that Vidura is approaching Maitreya Muni upon the instruction of Uddhava. Uddhava, Krishna's great friend and advisor, who was so entrusted by Krishna with the task of delivering a confidential personal message to the residents of Vrindavan, especially to the gopis. Uddhava was recruited by Krishna for very special reasons. Number one, his keen intelligence. And number two, his stature. He was on such a level that if he would come back from Braj and tell everyone that nothing you're doing in Dwarka surpasses the love the Brijvasis have for Krishna, everyone would believe Uddhava. Otherwise, they would think, oh, no one can love Krishna and relate to Krishna like we are. So Krishna picked the most suitable messenger to deliver his confidential letter to the residents of Vrindavan, and also to bring a message back to the other devotees outside of Vrindavan that nothing compares to Braja praying. Also, Krishna wanted to bless Uddhava with a chance to gain intimate insight into the love the Brijvasis had for Krishna, especially the gopis. So he's giving service to Uddhava, and he's also giving Uddhava an opportunity to dive deeply into the ocean of Gopi Bhava. So Uddhava has met up with Vidura and told him, go to Maitreya Muni and specifically hear about Krishna's names, forms, qualities, and pastimes. So then you may wonder, or you should wonder, why does Vidura begin the chapter with what might seem to be just an ordinary question, not directly related to Krishna? He asks, why is it that everyone in material existence is so attached to karmic activities for the purpose of becoming satisfied, number one, and number two, for the purpose of driving away distress? Why do they do this? Especially when the results of any karmic activity are simply that you become aggravated, you don't get peace. Can you please explain how people can get real happiness? So Srila Prabhupada in the purport tells us that this is Vidura's humility and also his compassion. He wants to clear out this stumbling block that exists on the path of karmic activity. Otherwise, how can people ever understand bhakti? How can they ever understand Krishna when they're so absorbed in karmic activity? You know the expression in Prabhupada's books, fruitive activity. They want the fruits for themselves. How will they ever understand Krishna? So Vidura has that purpose, first of all. That's his purpose to accomplish. And then, once that's cleared out of the way, persons can better understand Krishna's pastimes. We have to look at ourselves and see how much we're believers in karmic activity. We may say, oh, I know there's karma. I know there's action and reaction. But where is our heart invested? What is our intelligence doing? It's a very, the attachment to karmic activity is very difficult to root out. Just ask yourself, I'm going to repudiate material satisfaction? I'm going to repudiate any purpose in my life to combat distress, knowing that all such activities for attracting happiness and beating back distress, all such activities will just aggravate my mind and I'll never be peaceful? This sounds very difficult, doesn't it? It seems so natural that you're a sentient being, you're a conscious being. You want to be happy. What's wrong with that? There is nothing wrong with it. But the problem is we're looking for happiness in the wrong way, in the wrong place. And it seems so natural that we want to beat back distress. And there's certainly no requirement in bhakti that you have to torture yourself. There's no requirement in bhakti that you can't make any kind of adjustments whatsoever to reduce the miseries of material existence. But here is the problem. If you think that the purpose of your life is to attract material happiness and beat back material distress, you've missed the point. So often when doing outreach programs, even down at the Krishna village, inevitably I get the question, are you against the body? Are you against routine happiness? And I have to explain that you need to understand what is your purpose in life. Be as comfortable as you can without forgetting what is the real mission of human life. So how do you develop that kind of aloofness from the drive for material happiness and the drive to defeat distress? That can only come by hearing and chanting about Krishna. As you'll find in this chapter, Krishna Katha talks about Krishna have two immediate effects. They produce indifference to material existence. And what is material existence? The striving for material happiness and the combating material distress. Hearing about Krishna produces an aloofness from that whole syndrome, that whole struggle. Not only that, but the topics of Krishna produce ever-increasing freshness, navarasa. So you get both the positive and the negative. The negative is aloofness, you slacken your grip. I like that terminology Prabhupada uses, very poetic. You slacken your grip on material existence, back off a bit. And simultaneously, you taste something that ever increases in freshness. Just like at the very beginning of Bhagavatam, the sages at Naimisaranya say, Vayam tuna vitripyama uttama shloka vikrame yaschinvatam rasagyanam swadu swadu pade pade. We never tire of hearing about Krishna. In fact, anyone who knows what their real self-interest is, anyone who understands what life is all about, relishes the flavor of hearing about Krishna, swadu swadu pade pade, with every step. So these are the practical benefits of hearing about Krishna, chanting Hare Krishna. The whole process is not some kind of religious belief system. It's not just some kind of official ritual. The therapy brings about the greatest healing effects. Your natural sense of happiness is restored because this happiness, the so-called happiness that we're struggling for, will simply leave us disturbed. People talk about peace for the individual, peace in society, world peace. But that will never happen as long as the quest for material satisfaction and relief from material distress, as long as that happens on the material plane, there is no peace for the individual or for the world. In this way, Vidura's question is very important. Can you please teach us about real happiness? These people are so addicted to material happiness, which is just going to make them angry. Because you know from Bhagavad Gita, you contemplate the objects of the senses. This looks so good for me. This will make me happy. Yes, this is what I've been waiting for. You get all worked up in the mind because material existence is predominantly lived in the mind. You imagine things, you have mental conceptions. Oh, this looks good. I'll feel so good afterwards. Even if it's just temporary, it's all right. Or we become agitated by distress. Oh, this is happening, that's happening. I've got to fight back. There's nothing wrong, of course, in trying to do your bit to counteract material distress. But if you think that's the purpose of life, then the Krishna Bhaktas say you missed the point. So this philosophy, this science requires a cool head. But if someone immediately responds upon hearing this, are you against the body? Or sometimes they say, aren't we the soul and the body? Both. So why can't we have it all? Spiritual happiness and material indulgence. Sounds great, doesn't it? Huh? Why all this focus on the soul? But of course, we take care of the body for the purpose of the soul's engaging in devotional service. We are questioning what is the ultimate thrust, the ultimate goal of human society. We are not against persons trying to be as comfortable as they can, but that's not the main purpose in life. So our Bhagavatam requires a cool head. I like one statement Prabhupada made at New Vrindavan. It sounds like double talk, but the bhaktas can understand the depths of such a statement. He said, we are not against the advancement of material society, even though it's suicidal. Wait a minute now, what do you mean here? It reminds me, I often tell this story of Burijan Prabhu and I were invited to I guess you call it a housewarming. When householders get a new home, they like to invite persons over for a little yajna and blessings upon their new abode. So, of course, Burijan Prabhu is a householder. And so before it came time for us to speak, I was saying to him, well, your role is clear as a householder to encourage this family in their new home. Well, what am I to do as a sannyasi? I mean, I can't just Dukalayama Shastratam. This material world is a temporary and miserable place. It's not something you want to hear at your housewarming for your brand new home. But what am I supposed to say? Just enjoy, just... I can't say that either. Oh, your life will be like peaches and cream. So, Burijan Prabhu told me a very interesting line that I always use. He said, tell them, be as happy as you can be in a world where there's no happiness. That way I threaded the needle. Be as happy as you can be. Everyone went, Jai Maharaj, thank you for coming to our home. And then, in a world where there's no happiness. So often when I do that, when I repeat that, the devotees look at me like, how do we take this? You know, it's a coin toss. Is it heads up or tail down? Or what's going on here? But it makes them think. Be as happy as you can be in a world where there's no happiness. So this issue of the quest for happiness, Vyasadeva has to deal with. And this verse Vidura is talking to Maitreya and saying, Maitreya, you have a friend, Krishna Dvaipayana Vyasa, and he's great, a great sage, and he's given a great work, Mahabharata. And the whole purpose of Mahabharata is to draw the attention of the mass of people to Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, by utilizing the people's strong attachment for hearing mundane topics. So listening to Vidura's question, you think about Vyasadeva. Well done, Vyasadeva. You have a brilliant strategy. You're talking about so much political intrigue, so much artha, endeavors for material prosperity, kama, material desires, but you're doing it in a way that is antiseptic. This is what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in his commentary on this verse, that Vyasadeva captured the minds of the people by presenting lust and greed in such a way that people would become purified and they would become interested in Bhagavad Gita. And the explanation given is that by the people's attraction for hearing about lust and greed, Vyasadeva has arranged that they make spiritual advancement, draws their attention to Krishna Katha. So you might think, well done, Vyasadeva. Great bridge preaching. But remember Narada Muni's verdict. As Prabhupada explains way back in the first canto, Narada Muni directly condemns Vyasadeva. Because remember, Vyasadeva presented himself to Narada Muni as being, number one, dissatisfied with his Vedic compilations up to this point, including Mahabharata. And number two, Vyasadeva is feeling incomplete. So you could ask, Vyasadeva, a divine personality, ranked by Rupa Goswami and Bhagavatamrita alongside Lord Kapila Dev in terms of acting in the role of a great sage distributing transcendental knowledge. So how could he be dissatisfied? How could he be feeling incomplete? How could that happen to such a divine personality? The explanation is that the Lord, Sri Krishna, has induced Vyasadeva to feel this way so that Vyasadeva would compile Srimad Bhagavatam. You may recall in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna's predicament, intense internal predicament. You remember from the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, another name for chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita is the yoga of despair. We don't want to tell the folks at Krishna Village that we also teach the yoga of despair. Sign up for the teacher training course. Would not be very popular. Bookings are rare. Hurry up and sign up now. The yoga of despair. How could such a personality as Arjuna be in such a condition of comparable today to psychological breakdown? But by Krishna's will, Arjuna is going through this experience of being in Maya, just so we can watch and see what it's all about. So similarly, Vyasadeva is feeling unsatisfied, feeling incomplete by Krishna's arrangement, so that Vyasadeva will compile Srimad Bhagavatam. So Narada Muni tells him, you have failed to glorify Krishna. Now there's a bit of a to and fro in the Acharya's commentaries. Well, you can't really, someone could say, it's not that Vyasadeva never said anything about Krishna. It's there in Mahabharata, it's there in the various Puranas. But then the answer is, take a look at the whole picture, and his references to the personal glories of Krishna are so small in comparison to the enormity of all the other verses. So Narada Muni says, even if Vyasadeva is talking about impersonal Brahman, devoid of the material energy, still, without talking about Krishna, even talks about the impersonal Brahman, fail. They don't bring us to Krishna. And without coming to Krishna, even though you may be Paramatma, super soul realized, impersonal realized, you failed in your mission of life. So we're getting these different perspectives about the value of Vyasadeva's Mahabharata production. Narada Muni is very stern. You failed. You're feeling incomplete. You're feeling dissatisfied because you haven't glorified Krishna enough. And then Vyasadeva becomes motivated. All right, Srimad Bhagavatam. And as Sanatana Goswami explains in his text, Krishna Lila Stava, every syllable of Srimad Bhagavatam is saturated with pure love of Krishna. Every syllable. That takes some realization to understand fully, because you may be reading a chapter about dynasties, this king had this son, and that son had that son, and you're wondering, where's the Krishna brain? And then often, in Bhagavatam, you get to the end of such a chapter, and there's a benediction. Anyone who hears this will become relieved of material existence. Oh, better go back to the beginning. Right in the beginning of Bhagavatam, the mission is explained. Padamo namatsaranam satam, dharma projita kaitavocha. Bhagavatam completely sweeps out any kind of dharma that has material motivation. So this is the standard of Srimad Bhagavatam from the get-go, from the very beginning. It starts out of this world and it ends out of this world. But Vidura is giving credit to Vyasadeva. He had a good idea to draw the attention of the mass of people to Bhagavad Gita, to Krishna Katha, by the people's desire to hear about mundane topics, especially lust and greed. I don't know much about Mahabharata. I've read sections. But the sections I know, it's so much intrigue and it's so much action. But Narada Muni's point is, you've just got one sliver of Krishna Katha in the Mahabharata. That's a chapter known as Bhagavad Gita. It's not enough. You've got to do more, he tells Vyasadeva. So we need to look at our efforts to bring others to Krishna and see how those efforts look through the lens of Vidura and Narada Muni. Are we shy to mention the word Krishna? Every word has to be the divine. I can't say Krishna, otherwise they'll run away. How am I going to present the message of Bhagavad Gita without bringing in Krishna? Because if I say Krishna, even once, I'll be accused of being sectarian. And of course, as devotees, we're not sectarian. We're open to everything. So sometimes we have to deal with such issues in our personal presentations. And I think you'll find, in fact, I'm quite sure you'll find that you won't be satisfied, just like Vyasadeva wasn't satisfied by Krishna's arrangement. So there's always a constant effort how to present the message of Bhagavatam in a way that captures people's interest, but at the same time, you don't lose the plot, so to speak. You don't develop a addiction to avoiding saying Krishna. It takes quite some effort. Sometimes devotees would present to Prabhupada, I want to study psychology and write books based on the psychology or whatever material subject, and in that way bring people to Krishna. And Prabhupada would reply, you can do that, but you have to be very expert. It takes a lot of thought, a lot of consideration. But often I notice we just take the easy way out and don't talk about Krishna, his name, form, qualities, and pastimes. Here it's time for kirtan, and we're chanting this mantra, and it's good sound vibration, good vibrations. It'll make you feel good. And we leave it at that. Or we're giving a little talk, and I can't say Krishna, everyone will run away. If I just talk about spirituality, yes, everyone will appreciate me so much. I want to be known as a spiritual person, not a fanatic, a bhakti fanatic. I want people to look up to me as being broad-minded. The endeavor how to present the message of bhakti in a way that you don't lose your shirt, so to speak, or lose your sari, requires a lot of thought and prayer. We were hearing the other day about Lord Chaitanya's being very upset with Mukunda, who externally was hanging out with the wrong crowd. What was the nature of that crowd? Yeah, there's bhakti, there's karma, there's jnana, there's mystic yoga. These are all various portals to the divine, to Brahman. Mahaprabhu was very angry about that. Who is this Mukunda? He's some kind of synthesizer, pulling all these different things together and losing sight of bhakti. Not only losing sight of bhakti, but relegating bhakti, putting bhakti down as subordinate to other processes. I don't want to see him. So you might say Mahaprabhu is being harder than a thunderbolt. Where's the sweetness? But he's giving a message, just like Narada Muni is giving a message to Vyasadeva. So Vidura here he's looking at it from another angle. Vyasadeva did great. I know what his purpose is. But Narada Muni says, even though that was his purpose, he actually did a disservice. Narada Muni is very stern. He did a disservice to the people because although he wanted to attract their attention to Bhagavad Gita by so many pages of intrigue and material activities, even though he wanted to do that to attract the people to Bhagavad Gita, the people instead will just get absorbed in all the other chapters and forget about Bhagavad Gita. So we should keep that in mind in our outreach endeavors. We may think, the smorgasbord approach. You don't have smorgasbord restaurants in Australia, do you? Yeah, it's from Sweden, the term. You go into a restaurant and they've got just a spread of all kinds of food, and you just pick a bit from here, pick a bit from there. So we don't really want the smorgasbord approach to spiritual life. And this is why Mahaprabhu was angry with Mukunda externally. Of course, Mukunda is an eternal associate. And so, as Lord Chaitanya would later explain, it's impossible for you to make a real offense. I was actually just joking by banning you for 10 million verse. So Narada Muni pointed out to Vyasadeva, you've actually done a disservice, although you think you're doing great service. But Vidura here is complimenting Vidura. You're a great, complimenting Vyasadeva to Maitreya Muni. Your friend Vyasa has done great. He's great and he's done great. So Bhagavatam requires some very sensitive intelligence. It's not meant for the lack of deep consideration and deep thought. And of course, we require the proper lifestyle in order to assimilate Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are some thoughts about Mahabharata. These are some thoughts about the quest for happiness and the urge to beat back distress. And that was the first question Vidura asked in this chapter. Can you explain what is real happiness? Otherwise, the people's endeavors will simply agitate their mind. There'll be no peace. All right, any questions? No questions.
Thank you. Double mic.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for class, Gurudev. I'm wondering if people are to get distracted by the other chapters, are they still getting essentially purified and uplifted by being absorbed, even if they're unaware of the essentials of Bhagavad Gita? If they're getting absorbed in the pastimes of Krishna's devotees?
Yes, in the other chapters there's a little bit of Krishna there. This is the debate, the mock debate the acharyas present in their commentaries. Yes, it's not that there was nothing in the Mahabharata, other chapters besides Bhagavad Gita. It's not that there was nothing in the other Puranas, but Narada Muni is saying it's not enough. So yes, as we heard Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in today's verse, he comments that Vyasadeva captured their minds through talks of lust and greed, which normally would condemn you. Instead, by Vyasadeva's presentation, you get a bit purified. So it's not that Narada Muni is canceled out by Vidura or Maitreya. They're just looking at a jewel from different sides. But Narada Muni, he's quite conclusive. Not enough. Even you're talking about impersonal Brahman, not enough. Even knowledge of the absolute beyond material existence, the impersonal Brahman, talking about that still is not enough. What to speak of worldly topics. And Narada Muni points out, don't you know human nature? They'll just overlook Bhagavad Gita and go for all the intrigue, which is exactly what goes on in India today. Everyone knows stories from the Mahabharata. Bhagavad Gita? Yes, I have. My grandmother has it on her bookshelf. I touch it every week. Before touching it, I do Akshman, I've been told. I never read it though, but All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.